The City of Fremantle Council has proposed 2 new policies that could potentially have a big effect on the residents of Fremantle. The council argues that in order to keep up with economic, social and environmental issues, both the parking policy and the housing diversity draft need to be implemented.
What we're trying to do is get the balance right between what residents need and then also in terms of people coming into Fremantle and North Fremantle as well, where we have a lot of demand, especially around the cat bus route, train stations and those kinds of things. So it's about getting that balance right between the amenity of residents and the needs of commuters and people visiting Fremantle.
From reading the policy and from what I understand from the policy, it will actually limit people in even the outer suburbs of Whitegum Valley, Hilton, to 2 to 4 hours of parking in front of their properties, which is pretty strange for a place where there's no real heavy demand for parking. So it would be quite an impost on a lot of people, especially people who've built new homes or designed homes that can't have multiple cars, especially if it's a family of 3 or 4, teenagers studying, apprenticeships, going to work. So it'd be quite a challenge.
Fremantle Mayor Brad Pettit says it's time the city addresses the housing affordability crisis in order to make living in Fremantle more affordable.
Western Australia builds some of the biggest houses in the world with some of the least people in them. So often we have houses around 250 square metres with only 2 or 3 people in them. And we wonder why we have a housing affordability crisis. So what this new policy is trying to do is actually to encourage the building of smaller, more diverse dwellings so that Fremantle is actually a more affordable place to live. We have people on diverse incomes living here. But also, actually, I think not only does it create a better outcome socially, but environmentally as well, actually is a really important project from that perspective.
Some of the key points, they were quite sort of alarming, I thought. They're going to limit the size of new dwellings to 120 square metres for floor space. So whether that means first storey and second storey combined, I'm not really sure. But they're quite strong sort of policies, limiting each dwelling to 1 car. So if it's a working couple with a young family or teenagers going to school or studying or working for apprenticeships, 3 cars is sort of pretty common, so it'd be pretty tough saying 1 car per house, plus then no parking in the street as well.
And one of the other things that we're trying to encourage is that right in the middle of the CBD here, you actually don't need a car. And like many city centres around the world, people buy apartments which don't necessarily have a car parking space. So what we're trying to say then, we're trying to encourage that because it actually forces, again, the price of housing down. A parking bay can cost up to $50,000. But then we're saying that if you do buy one of those apartments in the CBD, you of course don't get a parking permit. So you have to either go and hire a space in one of the multi-storey car parks or just not have a car. So that's a big change because in the past we've always given CBD residents a parking permit so they can park. But as we get we're actually looking at quadrupling the amount of people who live in the middle of Fremantle. So the idea, if we gave everyone a parking permit, there'd be no parking for anyone else to come and visit.
The policies aren't in place yet, so there's still time for the community to react to it, but if they put all those policies in place, it would make quite a strange sort of lifestyle compared to what the average Western Australian or Australian is used to, and looks a little bit like social engineering when they, groups like a city council want to dictate to you how big your house can be, how much coverage you can put on, where your car can get parked, how many cars you can have. It's new territory, that's for sure.
Where there's historic older places, they will continue to have parking permits. Some of the new apartments that are being built, especially those that are being built for families, will come with parking spaces because they will accept and understand that that's what those families need. So they will actually have off-street parking that's dedicated to them. So this will only impact on those, normally they'll be the smaller units that are on the more affordable end of the spectrum, often named singles and couples that may not have a parking space. And then for me that's really important because it brings down prices, adds diversity, and that for me is a good outcome and very much part of a livable city.
I'm Chelsea Fruworth reporting for Undercurrent.